We all know that there are enduring and persisting inequalities throughout Europe. I mean, we've seen it in the stats, and we always know who is more likely to drop out. I mean, that's something that we know. If you look at the statistics and the way that we collect statistics, we see a clear correlation. Those children whose families do not have a higher educational level, or who are from low SES backgrounds, from disadvantaged backgrounds, tend to fail, tend to drop out more than the other families. This is a reality. Yeah? The problem is that sometimes this correlation has been confused as a causation. So blaming the families as if it was their fault that their children are failing. And this has been a disastrous educational myth that has been really well spread out among many teachers, many policymakers, many schools, even many families have internalized this. But when they are exposed to family education programs and they start to learn and to start to promote interactions, cultural and educational interactions with the children, these children whose families are of these disadvantaged backgrounds are succeeding because they start to talk about the book that they are reading in the dialogic literary gathering, for instance. And we've seen this in our research. So family education is a way to break down with this close circle of inequality and this educational myth that is damning thousands and thousands of students around Europe to fail. Examples of these successful educational actions are, for instance, the interactive groups. This is a way of grouping your students within a classroom or by small groups, heterogeneous groups, and each of these groups is facilitated by a person. The function of this person is to facilitate the interactions among the students. So in order to move to the other group, to the other small group, they have to make sure that all the students finishes the task, the assigned tasks. And this is a way to multiply by 4 or 5 the instrumental learning that the students are acquiring, and also to improve the living together. Because if I have problems with Mustafa, but I see that Mustafa is helping me to resolve the mathematics problem, then I see in another eyes Mustafa. So it's also a way to improve the living together and the school climate. It's also a way to bring in the community, because these persons who are facilitating the interactive groups, they can be illiterate mothers. Actually, there are illiterate Roma mothers entering the classroom and volunteering in the interactive groups and facilitating these small groups. This is just an example of these successful educational actions, and there are many other examples of actions and interventions that are working. You'll find them in the European School Toolkit. It's a repository of very well selected practices and actions and resources that are supported by the scientific community in terms of having showed that they are effective in preventing school failure. The decision of a school, of a learning community, to decide to start implementing the successful educational action, it's a bottom-up process. So that means that each school has its own story. So sometimes it's a teacher who has read, who has been trained under research and has discovered the successful educational actions. Other people through the European Toolkit can also start to implement. There are also Erasmus Plus projects promoting the extension of the successful educational actions. Or for instance, in Latin America, it has been a private enterprise who has taken as one of their social projects and is spreading it in 8 countries of Latin America.